Thanks. Yeah, great night for our team. Most importantly for those four seniors to see Jake and Austin and Mark and AJ play as well as they did and get a win in front of a great crowd on senior night is what you hope for every year. You don't always get it that way, and even some of the games this weekend where it was senior day for guys in certain programs, and you see them get beat in those games, and those are tough days. So. Really fun to see that on Saturday. We'll get the Illinois State again on Friday. We all just saw them, and I think we all understand how good they are, and how difficult it's going to be to get them again on Friday. But our guys are playing well right now. It's been a really good month and a half. Playing good basketball, doing a lot of things very well. Going to have to get a couple things adjusted and tweaked and do a couple things better in order to get a win on Friday. But we'll work hard at that here in the next couple days. With that, I would take questions.
Jake, is there any disadvantage to playing a team like this back to back?
I don't know that there's necessarily a advantage or disadvantage. I think it's probably I just don't think there is. I think it's, what I would say is, in some respects, I would rather play somebody that we haven't played for a little while. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's from a coaching standpoint or just my personal preference. But having said that, it's the same for both teams, right? Illinois State's got to turn around and play us again. We've got to turn around and play them again. So it's the same for both teams.
You kind of knocked Carmichael off stride early in that game. He never was able to get in sync. I know Brown had a huge game, but how do you continue to defend him and make life difficult for him?
But that was an important part of the game. One of the areas that helped us was Carmichael was in foul trouble. Able to have him have to come in and out of the game with fouls, both first half and second half, I think had an impact on the basketball game, and that's something that you can't control as much or predict that he's going to get in foul trouble again. You can do some things to make him defend, and you can throw the ball in there, and you can go at him, and it doesn't mean he's going to be in foul trouble. So I think that played a part in it, and I would expect that they'll make an adjustment or two. The adjustments they need to make, but an adjustment or two in regards to Carmichael not being in foul trouble, so that he's on the floor more, and so we're going to have to deal with him even more than what we did on Saturday.
How much can you do differently or put in new or different? Do you try and add a couple things to the game plan, both offensively and defensively, since you just played?
Right. That's one of the things I go back and forth on every year. This is not very often do we have 4 days of practice, before we play. You got to go all the way back to November, December, and I don't know how often it happened at that time. Maybe finals week. So this week is different every year, and I go back and forth on how much to try to get in and how much to change and what to throw at them, whether it's a team we just played or somebody we haven't played for a couple weeks. And there's a couple adjustments we have to make defensively, and we've got to look at some other ways to defend Carmichael and Brown. Some things maybe that we didn't do in the game on Saturday, because we've got to do what we can to make it hard for those two players. At the same time, coming off a game like this where a couple of the other players had some space, I would expect that those guys are going to be aggressive. They're going to come into our game feeling like they may have some space to play, and they're going to be open to shoot some shots, and I would expect those guys to come in with and be very aggressive. So there's one or two things I do want to do defensively. Then at the offensive end, there's I would guess, Gary, there's a handful of things, maybe 3 or 4 things, quick hitters, the way they defended some of our actions on Saturday. After going through them and watching them, that we'll see if we can't take advantage of the way they defended a couple of things and get those in. But beyond that, I'm going to try to keep it pretty simple. And I got to fight that a little bit. When I get a few days of practice before we have to play again, I get a little anxious and like making up plays. And putting some things in here and there, and so I got to hold myself back when we've got a few days like this.
Is this as wide open as you've seen the Valley tournament, where maybe you were
Yeah,
six?
I think so. I think each year when you go into it, all 10 teams feel like they got a chance, and everybody talks about that, and it is realistic. The bottom line is nobody's come out of Thursday and won. Could it happen this year? Sure it could, but it hasn't happened yet. So then you're down to 6 teams, and I think this year maybe more so than any, the teams that are seeded 1 through 6 could find a way through it. And I say that based on what the results have been. Wichita and Creighton have lost some games to the other teams, and so I think this year maybe even more so than any, somebody other than the top couple seeds could get through.
I know you were asked this a couple weeks ago, but now that the regular season's over, do you play just a little bit of the what-if game? You finished 2 games out of first place, and you had those tough road
Right.
losses in India. Do you kind of think about what could have happened during the regular season for this team?
No, I haven't spent time thinking about it. At the same time, I know the same thing that we all know sitting in here today. Those 2 games we had the upper hand, and the 2 home games we weren't playing as good in early January when we saw those 2 teams. But again, 1 possession games where we had the upper hand with Evansville, so our chances were out there. For me, I feel like that's one of our most important jobs from a coaching staff standpoint, is to make sure for our players and for our fans that we have opportunities. And we took a shot at a bunch of them in November and December, and our guys played well enough in the 4 games against Illinois State and Evansville that we had our chance. And that for me is the most important thing. Some years you're going to have that ball is going to roll your way, and you're going to win more close games than you lose. And when you do, you're going to have a good record and hopefully win a championship. This year we lost a couple, but I don't spend time thinking about it, and I don't right now. I spend my time thinking about how well the guys are playing, and it's fun watching them play with the kind of confidence they've got right now, and the job the 4 seniors have done, how they've handled themselves. We'll build on that and get ready for Friday.
Do you have a mental advantage on Illinois State, knowing you beat them twice, and is that something that?
Yeah, I think that probably you could probably turn that one both ways. The fact that we have had success this year against them twice, can give a team some confidence. And on the other side of it, there's certainly some motivation there when you get beat by somebody. So I think you can turn that one either way. They'll have. I'm sure they'll use it as an advantage on their side, and we've got to try to use it as one on our side. Anybody else?
Talk a little bit about the rebounding edge you had on Saturday, and how do you try and duplicate? I think you had like 18 offensive rebounds, out-rebounded a big team.
Yeah, the guys put in a really good effort in terms of rebounding on Saturday. That's as good as of an effort as we have had all season on the backboards. And a part of it, I think, goes to Rick's question as well on Carmichael. When he's out of the basketball game, they're a little bit different in terms of their size and in terms of their rebounding. So Carmichael being in foul trouble had an impact on the rebounding. It also, because he was out of the game, it put them in a situation where they maybe had to play a little bit more zone than what they wanted to. And out of that 2-3 zone, we got some rebounds. And sometimes that's a long shot going long. Sometimes guys in the zone are rotating, and we had some guys in position to rebound it on the weak side of the floor. So, I think the foul trouble with Carmichael and Wilkins and Ike, Carmichael maybe in particular, had an impact, not only because he wasn't there to rebound at times, also they had to play a little more zone, and sometimes rebound out of that zone's tough. So we've got to work hard to see if we can find a way to get on the boards again. I know we talked about it in the pregame, Garrett, and felt like that was going to be a key, and that'll be a key again on Friday. It's going to take a better effort from our guys in order to get, I think, even close to what we got on Saturday. What else? Thanks.